Before I uploaded the last video recently, I reviewed it. I came across a very stupid mistake. I based this entire build on these constant velocity joints that I can now 3D print, and it's all based on this document I found on the internet of a burr field constant velocity joint. This explains the principle behind it. Here's a close-up view of a cross-section of a burr field joint, and here is a cross-section of the ball grooves. And inside of these 3D printed parts I use these exact angles, geometric shapes, and it's always worked great until I started assembling these differentials. Kept breaking a significant number of ball cages. I assembled the second drive shaft. I can feel that the ball cage is to break at any point. So something was wrong and I didn't know what. Why has it always worked in the past and it doesn't work anymore? Here's a cross-sectional view of the drive shaft as I'm using it. You see the drive shaft itself and the two inner CV joint races. And if I keep that next to an actual drive shaft, I hope you can see the error of my ways. I think it's very clear. Glue these two races on both sides in the wrong orientation. They should be flipped. In order to save these boots, because making those involves molding and it's a lot of hassle. So what I've decided to do is cut these drive shafts and throw them away. My printer is already printing new races as we speak and new ball cages. I'll cut some new drive shafts, I'll re-glue and I'll redo the drive shafts. So let's get to it. 4 new drive shafts. After correcting my mistake with the orientation of these inner races, I went ahead and I assembled one entire differential. Apart from the wheel hubs, this one is done. And as you can see, these constant velocity joints seem to work as intended. Time to assemble this side. I think I've shown this in the past. Now that this side is done, I can slip this bolt into this groove right here. This bolt has a lip on the inside which will exactly fit that groove over there. So it goes something like this. And there it's in place. This boot also has a groove on the outside, they all do. And those grooves are meant to take the tie wrap. And I think these ones are too small for this bigger end, but they will fit here. Look at the groove again. Okay. These longer ones fit around here. Okay. Hopefully I've got a couple more. No more black ones. Red it is. And of course here on the tighter end of the boots I can fit these shorter tie wraps, like so. So that of course still leaves me with these outer bigger ends of these boots, and for that I've got this steel wire. I'll wrap it around a couple of times and then twist it, something like so. I wrapped the steel wire around the boot twice and I made sure it's in the groove all the way around. So now it's just a case of twisting it a couple of times until it's taut. And it's pretty tight. And I'll snip off the excess. And finally I'll bend over this tiny amount of excess. It will clear the wheel hub, like so. And of course the same goes on this side. So the drive shafts are in. The boots are all mounted and fixed in place. These boots should keep dust and sand out of these CVGs. So now it's time to add these wheel hubs. I have to make sure that they're the right way around. This ball joint has a small flange, goes against this flange, like so. The 6mm shaft should clear the bearing. Hopefully, or I can restart everything. No, it doesn't. A couple of days ago I finished assembling the drive shafts of these two differentials, but there was a hiccup. I messed up. This one has a diameter of about 594, 595, and this one slightly bigger, 610, 611. So when I designed this wheel drive shaft, I specified that I should use a 5.94 diameter shaft, and apparently I messed up because these smaller bearings do not fit onto these shafts. They just will not fit. So I 3D printed new outer cups for the CV joints with the correct shaft glued into them, and this one does fit. I will assemble these wheel side CV joint cups to there, which means I have to disassemble these ones. Of course I made 4 of these. Once these 4 are all swapped out, I will be back. Now that these 2 rear axles are done and all the main parts of the drivetrain and suspension have been added, I wanted to revisit another issue. This is the front part of the car. What I wanted to redo are these limiting straps for the suspension. Right now it's far too complicated and I just don't like it. These are going to come off. Okay, as you can see, I just formed a loop and ran this bolt right through there. But this was less than ideal. So what I want to do now is use these pieces of shaft, screw them to here and use that to clamp these straps down. I call these straps, these are just basic shoestrings, but should do fine strength wise. Okay, let's see the way this goes together. First I need a clean cut end, clean and square. This should be fine. I'm gonna fold it over and take this small 3D printed part, press it into here, and then comes a toothpick, and then by inserting it and rotating, this comes out the other end. This by itself is almost tight enough. Next thing I do is snip off the end of the toothpick, both sides, and finally a couple of drops of super glue right into there, a bit there, maybe a bit there. Let that settle for a couple of minutes, and this should now fit right between these two legs. Like so. Okay. Now this seems to be the maximum droop. Maybe a bit extra. I'm gonna cut it off. And now it's just a case of folding this one over, maybe elevating the wheel slightly, place this bar over the strap, let's very carefully test this. It's a bit tight still. This should do for now, so it's just a case of tightening this down. Now let's do the other one. I'm just gonna let that dry for a bit, and after that one is mounted as well, I will be back. So using a couple of these self-made nuts with these square plate nuts inserted, it just slides into the groove like so. I was able to tighten down these straps, shoelace, pretty tight. So now I can cut off this end. I think I need a couple of extra nuts in these two rails for these two brackets of this cabin. It will go on something like this, so a nut goes under there. To prevent cracking of the plastic, I will use a couple of small washers. As you can see, the bolt is slightly too long. And that's much better. I've now moved on to the rear of the car. I've cleaned these aluminium drive shafts with a bit of acetone just to get rid of any grease. I've already added a couple of nuts. I need 2 more. The bolt and 2 washers go on the inside, and this nut goes on the outside. Same here. And then it's a question of sliding it into place. I had marked the frame with a small line at the correct distance, 35.5. Well, I'm slightly off, but I can live with that. There's the second mark. Okay. Okay, there it goes. I need to move that plate up to that mark, and then this coupler should engage that shaft. Okay. Now I want to make sure that the tops of these plates are flush with the aluminium profile and that these differentials are horizontal or at least parallel to this tabletop surface. That all seems in order. Time to tighten it down. Okay. Next I want to add these limiting straps. I've already prepared 2. Added some super glue to these ends. That's GoPro for you. That camera died. I'll do the other one and then I'll be back. Okay. That's one side, and I added the wheels to the other side as well. Okay, for now the rear of the car is done. Of course it still needs steering. The drive shafts actually work. So this is what the rear of the car looks like when it's on its wheels. And if I turn this drive shaft by hand, it actually moves. And also the suspension seems to work. I added a couple of tension springs. Here is the front of the car, and because the front of the car only has this one axle and it needs to carry a bit more weight, I'm going to add some stiffer springs. I'll use 4 of these. Should they not suffice, I will use these thicker ones. The way these tension springs go on is pretty easy. One spring is almost enough. Let's do the other side. Okay, so one set of springs is barely enough to keep this weight. I'll add the cabin to this end of the frame. Let's see, what that does to the springiness. Not too bad at all. Good. I'm gonna leave these springs for now. For the first time in a year, let's marry these two. I desperately need a bigger desk. Let's see if this fits. So far, so good. This really shouldn't be this hard. Come on. Seems to fit. Okay, that will do for now. Okay, let's add the cabin to it. There's two small flanges at the front and two brackets at the rear. For now this is done. So this is what it looks like right now. Like I said, it still needs this unit. This is the electric motor with the center differential. This one needs to go in from the bottom. It connects these two shafts and it drives the entire thing. It's on its wheels for the first time, so I'm really pleased. Next time I'll add the center differential, the motor, but for now I'm going to end it right here. Thank you for watching. Until next time.